The bannock is ready, the fire it is on. The neighbours will gather before very long to join in the spree, the dance and the song. And my children will leave in the morning. The griddles ne'er idle, the poteen will flow. The pipe or a doogeen in each gobbet will go, and the finest of crockery we'll have on show. 'Twill return to the press in the morning. Now the mat's on the quick, it's put out for an air, and I might spread some rushes just to welcome all here. The poor Clares have been called on for blessings and prayer, and the priest will be here in the morning. There's boxty and oat bread and bannocks galore. The butter's been churned and there's frog bread, what's more. There'll be nothing but bruisey and bull's milk in store, once the pair have set off in the morning. There'll be hornpipes and half-sets and all sorts of dance. Some will sing their camailias and we'll have old carrants, and there'll be stories of gold dust in the land far beyond. There'll be no turning back in the morning. I'll take the child from the tea chest where safe she's been plain. She can stay up tonight till the rosary we're praying, for she may not see her brother or her sister again. They are taking the boat in the morning. I'll hang up my penny, for the neighbours are here, and we'll raise a few noggins and be of good cheer. There'll be plenty a storing and buicas legia, and I'll not shed a tear till the morning.
wasn't that much of it made up our country, but there were some people made it and were good at it. And others made it, tried it and weren't that good at it, so like everything else. But it was brought here and there and everywhere. A lot of journeymen workers, farm workers and that in the harvest time would go from one county to another and often bring it with them, because the food they get when they were, as I say, working on farms where maybe they wouldn't be getting that much to eat, they always had a bit of that bonnet with them because it was nutritious and it was easy carried. It was, that's the cake there itself, it's as hard as a board, and you could bring it anywhere. The most common way it was used was people going to America. There'd be most of the Irish people, and indeed other countries, would be steerage passengers. They'd be down below decks, so there wouldn't be much food coming their way. And what they got would be probably a type of gruel of food that was left over from up on decks, and that they had to live on or sustain them. So they brought this with them. In most counties or most parishes had somebody who made bonnet, and if they were going to America and they had their, what they called their bundle ready, that was the one thing they always made sure to bring a bit of bonnet with them. 6 weeks, I think, from leaving Cove until coming up on Ellis Island, so they had to bring a fair amount of it with them. But the good thing was about it was that it was easy carried. It would last. That would last for 6 months because there's very little ingredients in it, and it was somewhat nutritious. So it was very important to that. But apart from that, people used to, as I say, make it for household. When I was going to school, there was one woman particularly good at it, and her lads used to trade it with everybody in school. You could even get a fella to do your homework for you. But it was quite tasty, dry and kind of strange tasting, but I had some of it made there. The ingredients is very simple. Pinhead oatmeal, wheaten flour, salt and boiling water. That's it. And sugar. That's it. So there was nothing great about it, and yet it was all, to get the right mix was difficult enough. That's the only thing I could say about it. But I just, that was the way, one way it was on the griddle in front of the fire. This was the other one. The griddle, everything is hot now. The griddle, put it on there, and the cook on that as well. But that was probably the more common way of doing it. Although I saw it made on that. I tried making myself, but it wasn't every bloody thing. But I'll just show you the whatever you call it. Now, that's again made on the griddle. These ones are made on the pan. On that one there. So just cut them out with a cutter. Now, I'll leave it here. I'm not going to force feed anyone. If you want to taste it, I can do it. It's dry, and as I said, there's nothing in it that would do me any harm. That I know anyway. It was a way of in the harvest time of the year, when the thrasher was gone and the meal was brought to have it made into meal for the house, the most thing that the ground down was oatmeal. Oatmeal was usual crop in Leitrim would be anything from a half an acre to an acre and a half of oats. About 2/3 of it would be kept for animal food, and then they'd keep some of it to bring to the mill and grind it down into what we now call pinhead oatmeal. And that was used for porridge, for cakes, for bannock, and it was, every house had a bag of it, and it would last from, we'd say, the harvest time of the year up until the springtime or the early summer. So a very popular meal to have in the house, and there'd be nearly no house that wouldn't have it. But and one of the ways, as I said, to use it up was to make in bannock, and the other one was to make oatmeal bread, and we have some of that there as well. I'll slice up a bit of it. I didn't actually make it, but the daughter made one of them and the wife made the other, so I better cut the two of them out. When we were young, I was telling Pascal here, when I was young, there was an old man and woman, and one from taste, you know, the work. And we used to go to them at turf and hay and that. And Jesus, they were anything but there now. But Kate, commercial, she used to be making that. She used to be making bread and bringing it out, made it to us, so bringing it out to the bog. And she used to say, did you ever see anything with clean your hands like making bread?
You're still alive,
Yes, you wouldn't have much taste for it. Herself and the husband were fighting one morning, arguing anyway, no one were too nice people indeed. And whatever they were arguing about, he said to her, shut up, he said, and go away and clean your face, he said, and a lump of egg stuck to her chin. He said, go away and clean your face, and Lucky. Go and give it out and wash your face. Well, she said, smarter than all the show, that was yesterday morning. Anyway, nobody died anyway. They were decent people. So I cut a slice of that now. My hands are clean, so I'll leave it there. And as I said, anyone that wants, we have a bit of jam there. It's jelly, blackberry jelly. And last year was a great year for blackberries. And it looks very thin, but anyway. Sometimes blackberry jam, the seeds in it can be annoying. So that's just the jelly of the jam, if you know what I mean. So it's tasty enough. And I cut up, we made a couple of pounds of homemade butter as well.
Oh, God.
And it might be a bit salty for it. It's funny how things change too. Twice the price now if you get it, but when we were young, that's all it was, homemade butter in the house. I know and had anything else. Except if there were Yankees coming home or something like that, there'd be a pound of butter bought in the shop. Jesus, we used to love it. Oh, the best stuff ever. And, but when the Yankees went back, it was back to but it was alright, it was salty, and we used to think the other stuff was so nice. And of course, a pan loaf would be bought as well. The homemade bread wouldn't be regarded at all, it'd be soda cake. And we'd be back to, but those are the times there was an old man at home and going to this. And he used to come to visit in all the house and pick the animal, remember, Paddy the chicken. And he was a grand man, but he was a bit, a bit harmless. But he used to say, I was in Maestron's last night, and he used to say, there was Yankees from England in it. He thought anyone who was from Ireland who were Yankees. He was a nice man. I'll tell you one more story about him and then I'll go. There used to be old dances in the hall, that him and I didn't remember them myself. There'd be a row of women on that side and a couple of women on this side. And some of them didn't have that much taste for dancing, and they had it wouldn't be for books like up. But anyway, the jigger started down at the lower end and he walked the whole way up. And there was one woman called Lover. She always danced with him. He could dance, he was a good dancer. He could he could and played the mouth organ. He'd be dancing away and like, Jesus said it was an awkward sort of setup. He'd be pulling real hard. And in the latter end, he had his hand under her chin, or she would keep him back. After a time, it was an awful battle. Some of the bucks, the Pope Piano sitting around the wall, and he says, "Go easy, Paddy, I can smell the clutch burner."
the railway line was about 50 miles long in all, but it was the only one, it was the only narrow gauge that didn't use diesel. Right up to the very end, it used coal from Original the whole time. And there were lots of times that it was going to be closed, but then, say in the Second World War, called the emergency, that we needed coal, then Original came back into strength again. And finally it was closed down in 1959 by none other than Ryan Tubridy's uncle or granduncle, Todd Andrews. He got rid of a lot of the clear, the clear railway, what do you call it? First the French one. Sorry, Westdale, yeah. You're right there, Michael, you're right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and Donegal railways and so on. So slowly, they were great. Narrow gauge railways were great because of their narrow gauge between the thing for hilly country like ours. So this one is called the narrow gauge, and it's about a protest. I've researched it, and I don't think we went there. But it's supposed to be about Drumshanbo people going up to, and Original people going up to Dublin to protest about the closure of the railway. So it goes something like this. And it's to the air of Slattery's Mountain Foot, that famous one by Kilo Duffy in the 50s. You've heard of Julius Caesar and the great Napoleon too, and how the Cork militia beat the Turks at Waterloo. But there is trouble rising that will make history. It's the Battle of Drumshanbo against the CIA. The CIA decided they would scrap the narrow gauge, and this put all the people of Drumshanbo in a rage. The news spread through Arigna, and every mother's son said they would fight with all their might to see justice was done. And down from the mountain came the Leidens and the Bruins, the Flynn's, the Winds, the Christies, McDermott Rowe and the Nooms. These were all mine owners. They were a warlike regiment, the slogan was their rhyme. They wouldn't flinch or yield an inch till they'd get back to line. Then we get local in Drumshanbo who got organised. John Mooney organised the town, assisted by Jim Kane. With meetings in the Roxy, they planned out their campaign, that they'd march up to Nicebridge to see that wrong was done, that Mooney and McGuire's would lead them to their fight. Eddie Nahat was also there to keep it in ranks. The Giblins were out in force in charge of all the tanks. Young Lairdy had a racing car, dispatches for to run, and Paddy Mac was mounted on a 3-inch mortar gun. And down from Toston Terrace came the Nugents and Mayos, the Banlamore and Carrick Roads assembled at Tom Joe's, and B.G. Early sent his sons to keep up his good name, and to strike a blow for Campbell's, Pat Connell and Willie Dean. Seamus Murray with his pickup truck at bringing up supplies. John Doherty with his cleavers said he'd mow them down like flies. Mick English with his hammer said he'd be in this attack. And Moran's hearse went up to bring the dead and wounded back. Hang down your head, Mr. Andrews. Hang down your head and cry. For if we don't get back our railway, tomorrow you will surely die. What nonsense, said Mr. Andrews, do you think I'd waste my time? I have something else to bother me besides your railway line. If you think you can dictate to me, you must be all insane. Go home and mind your business, and I will do the same. Said Mooney to McGuire, our forces we'll withdraw. You know we can't assault him, he's protected by the law. And as the troops all turned around, their eyes were filled with tears. Said Johnny me, oh, before we go, we give 3 ringing cheers. And back down from Dublin came the squadrons and platoons, and Willie Riley with his fife played lively marching tunes. They thinking that they can remove the train that served the town so well, and now that it has been removed, Tom McGrath can sound the bell.
People who would be emigrating from around, all the neighbours would have gathered in, and the girls would have gone round to the houses before this and probably gathered up a few relics. More than likely a few medals from the nuns in Drumshanbo was always a good thing to send people off with. But also they would have sent them off with other little tokens, and even if they couldn't afford to send them, because obviously back when times were really hard, it was just words and prayers, and reminding them of to remember where they came from, and not to forget them. And there was also another reminder before they went to make sure that they remembered where they came from in terms of when they got a bit flahulach, that they'd send a little bit back, because that was very, very important.
Peace was. I spent so long down at so much time. Two of my best friends were the sons of a station master, and I just say here, in the 1950s, my schoolmates and I spent a lot of our childhood playing in and around the railway station in Drumshanbo. It was to us a magical place that allowed us to indulge in mysteries and to create small mythologies of our own, away from the scepticism of elders. Our railway, unlike others, had high-spirited, snarling locomotives that one saw only in Hollywood westerns. These locomotives were wrestled and coaxed into submission by their patient, grease-stained drivers, always with a cloth in one hand, and their fellow grime-faced firemen. Our railway had trains heading east with full wagons of coal, harvested from deep, enigmatic mountains in Origna by special men with white eyes and dark faces. On fair days, dealers with strange accents cajoled uncertain cattle onto trains heading north. Santa Claus too came from the north every year, a rising excitement echoing each exploding fog signal that greeted his procession down our narrow gauge line. The railway was our connection with the mysterious beyond. The more we saw, the more we imagined. I was 11 years old when the railway closed in 1959, and with its closure, we left the kingdom of childhood, where nobody dies. Later in 1966, Patrick J. Flanagan's definitive history, the Cavan and Leitrim Railway, brought us up the staircase to the real world of the railway, its struggle, its resilience, but above all, to the great people who worked on the railway and the great service they provided to those living in our area and beyond. Other writers and photographers, Tom Ferris, Norman Johnson, Father D'Angelo, Michael Kennedy in Drummond, Kevin Murray, etc., have affirmed this in their own published work on the subject. It has been said on many occasions this week, this is when we celebrated in 2009, that our programme of events in various places is not a celebration of the closure of the railway, but a celebration of its vibrant, colourful life, spanning 72 years. And this is a song written by the poet McGuire's from Owbridge. Owbridge is, you come about 3 miles out from Ballinamore towards Carrigavan, and you could drive straight on to Clune. It's kind of a crossroads, a lovely area. And the poet McGuire is given this song And it's worth to remember that the railway itself, it was founded in 1887, finished in 1959. And as a child of 11 years at the time, I couldn't believe how quickly and sadly that the railway line was lifted. And it just disappeared in 3 weeks. It was amazing. It was our playground. But anyway, this is by McGuire's from Ahu Bridge. You jovial tourists who seek the purest and grandest scenery in all the land, pay attention whilst here I mention a mode of transport that will suit your grand. 'Tis not the motor I aim to vote for, or premier cycle, though all the rage. No, my advice is, whatever the price is, go buy a ticket on the narrow gauge. Just travel by it, 'twill take you quiet, the best of company you're sure to meet. The donkey dealers and fur retailers of Church Lane, Cannibal and Chapel Street. The grand directors and line inspectors and local pressmen so cute and sage. They travel gratis, whatever that is, while others stump up on the narrow gauge. All nature's charms in all its forms along the line will enchant the view. St. Kevin's gander saw nothing grander, while around Wicklow a foldy flew. Moore's Lanniarook is a beauteous book, with blooming flowers on every page. But Sharon's roses can't match the posies that deck the borders of the narrow gauge. When going to Drummond, there are still some that prefer to sit behind Dooner's grey. Going to Belturbet, they surely curb it, the brakes are on all the blessed way. If to Drumshanbo you by the tram go, no slower passage can you engage. Jack Redsy's donkey, they call him Spunky, would be King Edward on a narrow gauge. The Irish royals might shout disloyal, so hear my meaning I should define. King Ned's an engine was med at bingen, fair lovely bingen on the Rhine. And Sergeant Bryan, a cute and sly one, may seek promotion by some other stage. Else him I'll sentence to due repentance, and 20 miles on the narrow gauge. Last verse. 'Twas my intention much more to mention, though half its praises I haven't sung. Big baby falling and Molly's calling, with click, 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 telegraphic tongue. But sweet as the thrushes in trees and bushes, and pet canary on gilded cage. When I have leisure, I'll sing with pleasure the countless beauties of the narrow gauge.
Just to say to you, there's a couple of things, and I think John will speak further about them after, but as you're looking around, that were particularly relevant to the wake as people were setting off, and again dependent on what era that it was. I know he was hoosting out a bit of drink out there, but there was, I suppose, no more than anything else, the stations and all the rest, there'd come a time where the priests weren't too happy with the alcohol being given out at the parties, at the spree sometimes it was called, but at the American wake. So like all things, it became a little bit of a controversial subject, but I'm sure once the priest was gone, which people
generally got the blessing from, once he was gone, I'm sure that they got it out as well. And the other thing that was really important was the pipes, hence Pascal's visit to the Pipe Museum in Knockcrockery. And according to Jim Gannon in Drumshanbo, he tells me that the pipes were always smoked at wakes because they weren't sure maybe why somebody had died, or maybe that they had some kind of something contagious, and that the pipes were actually meant to clear the air a little bit with the smoke of it. So it made them feel a little bit safer. And sometimes they were a one-off, that they after they were destroyed, or that the tops and they were made into the doojeans, if you like, afterwards. So that was his take on it. And you'll notice a lot of them that have ended up just like that they've broken off and the tops of them. But I remember finding these mud for years, you'd be digging them up, and I'm sure you all did the same. So obviously it's really important, and everybody had to have a finger of tobacco, and if there weren't enough pipes, husband and wives, they shared the pipes, but everybody else then had their own, and it was considered then to be an insult if you didn't, but we're not going to make it. So that was one of the things that was there. And obviously religion always played a part, like with the Sacred Heart pictures, and I think part of the politics of the religion, I think the Kennedys nearly were part of that religion in one way. There was pictures of them all around the place, but the Child of Prague as well in the window, and the blessing being given to them as they were going off was really, really important as well for them.
Yeah, Vincent Woods, a lot of you would know him from here, from these parts. He's from Arigna, and very close to the people of Arigna and to the people, rural people in general. He would have seen the worst of times and the best of times indeed too down in Arigna. But like any other part of the country, immigration was a huge issue there. And he wrote a poem for Michael, I don't know who Michael is, and it just says, after the American wake. It's a simple poem, but it's a nice poem all the same. It's 1904 or 1905, we don't know the time of the year, but likely it was summer. Two men are saying goodbye forever at a green gate over the stream. They're both called Miles. They're both tall and thin. One is going to America and will never return. One is staying at home and will never leave. They have watched the dawn rise over the north, seen the last of the stragglers home. They hear the jingle of the horse's harness, the lingo. Clasped hands, hear the driver shout. Remember, said the one who's leaving, remember tonight. It's a nice poem.